What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and the Android phones, well, they keep coming, even in 2011. You have the Motorola Atrix 4G, an awesome high-end Android phone, 1 GHz Tegra 2, dual-core processor, 4-inch display, 5-megapixel camera, pretty cool device in terms of specs, in terms of speed, and more. It's available on AT&T now for $199.99. Then you have the Nexus S, a device that came out late last year and is a good device as well. 1 GHz single-core processor, but 4-inch display, 5-megapixel camera, Android 2.3 gingerbread on this device as opposed to Android 2.2 on this one. Now, in typical Phone Dog fashion, what do you do when you have two phones that are good on two different carriers? You do a dogfight. That's what we're going to do, one between the Motorola Atrix 4G and the Samsung Nexus S. But first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile. They're going to hook us up with two of these so we can give them away to you later on in the One Paw Bandit game. So if you do go in to get these, you walk out working, you get that email, the web, all that good stuff set up. Enough of that, let's figure it out. Which one of these is the best? Which one of these is the most have device? We'll figure it out in the dogfight starting right now. So you have two awesome devices here, the Motorola Atrix 4G and the Google Nexus S, or Samsung Nexus S, depending on how you want to say it. $199.99 AT&T, $199.99 at Best Buy, even though it is a T-Mobile device. The sales channels, and we'll get into this in a few minutes, it's unfortunate that the sales channels are only at Best Buy. But anyway, it's $199 on a 2-year agreement, $529.99 full retail. This one's $499.99 full retail. Again, you can only get this one at Best Buy, although, and while it's not a branded T-Mobile device, it is a Google Experience device. It does support T-Mobile's 3G AWS bands and 1700 megahertz. So it is, you put your AT&T SIM card in this, it's going to be an edge-only device. Whereas with T-Mobile, it's going to be a 3G device. So keep that in mind. It does, just work on T-Mobile. And you can get it with a contract. So let's go over the specs pretty quickly here. 1 GHz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor. So it's the first device our first cell phone rather, on the market to have a dual-core processor in it. So it's this awesome, super fast, at least theoretically, super fast device with a cool processor. 4-inch QHD display, front-facing camera, rear-facing camera that's 5 megapixels, and it's running Android 2.2, with Motorola's Moto Blur, which you can see here by the icons down at the bottom. Now, the Google Nexus S, on the other hand, Android 2.3 gingerbread. It's a stock version of Android 2.3, but it does have a 1 GHz Hummingbird processor, single core, but still a powerful processor. 4-inch Super AMOLED display, 5-megapixel camera on the back, and then a front-facing camera as well, where this one knocks the Motorola Atrix 4G out a little bit. Two things. One, obviously the operating system difference, Android 2.3 as opposed to 2.2, but also the NFC near-field communication support that's on the Nexus S. Now, this hasn't really taken off in the United States just yet, and I don't think I have the Google thing with me anymore, but basically it's one of those near-field communication. I can bring my phone near a certain code and scan it, and it'll automatically bring up something, bring up a website, bring up something else. So it's one of those things for wireless payments where at some point in the future you can use your phone like you would your wallet, go to the grocery store, drop it on the pad, and pay your bills without ever pulling out your wallet. So cool technology, not that it's really taken off in the US yet, but still very cool. You have your typical capacitive buttons on both of these, and we'll go over the design briefly on both of these as well. You can see this one has what's called a 4-inch curved Super AMOLED display, and it's funny, when this first came out, the angles in which they showed it made it look kind of terrible and kind of junky, if you will, but actually I like the way that this looks. You can see this curved design here, and it's not too overly curved, and you can see even when you're holding it like this, it's not really noticeable. You can see it every now and again, and for me, I've found it easier to type on as a result of the minor curve. But all plastic build, 5 megapixel camera on the back, power button on the right side, micro USB charging port, and 3.5 millimeter headphone jack on the bottom, volume rocker over here on the left, and then you can see it's a little bit thicker at the bottom, a little bit thinner at the top, and it does have that hump at the bottom like a couple of the Galaxy S devices. You can see that's what it looks like. So all plastic build. That said, it's definitely a high quality plastic. Feels good in the hand. Doesn't feel like it's going to break, but for those people that like the design, like myself, that prefer the design of something like the iPhone 4 with a little bit more substance and metal and glass, this may not appeal to you. Actually, both of these devices may not appeal to you. But then you have the Motorola Atrix 4G. As I said, 4-inch display. On the right side, you have your volume rocker. Left side, you have the micro USB charging port and HDMI port. Now the cool thing about this, and if you haven't seen this already, I'm sure you have, but I just have to say it in case you haven't. This has a laptop dock accessory that goes with it where you can pop this down in the laptop dock. If you remember the video from CES, throw it in the laptop dock, open up the laptop, and you can compose text messages, browse the web, and do a couple, check your email and do other things from the laptop without having to do it from the small display. So it's a $500 laptop or $500 accessory, but still very cool to have, and it's a nice accessory ecosystem. There are several accessories available for the Atrix that really take advantage of this device's full potential. Biometric fingerprint scanner on the back along with a power button, and then kind of a carbon fiber back, like I said, 5 megapixel camera, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and kind of a slab form factor. So form factor is pretty similar across the board. You can see the design's pretty similar. The overall dimensions are pretty similar. Couldn't think of the word there. Dimensions are pretty similar despite the curved display here. But you do get that accessory ecosystem with the Motorola Atrix 4G that you don't necessarily get with the Google Nexus S. One, because, well, it doesn't have the laptop accessories, and two, because it hasn't been officially supported by T-Mobile. As I said, this comes with Android 2.2 with Moto Blur, which is actually the full version of Moto Blur as well. And you can see, before we jump into the keyboards, let's take a look at what's installed. You can see the Moto Blur accounts thing here. I do have Advanced Task Killer on here, but it's something I installed. AT&T Code Scanner, AT&T Family Map, AT&T Navigator. Now, kudos to AT&T on the Atrix this time around, because you can remove those programs on this device. So I do have to give them credit. On previous devices you couldn't remove, and actually on a lot of carriers you can't remove the carrier installed app. So that's really a step forward, even though there's still no side loading on this device. Still a step forward. Blockbuster, and then you have the Moto Blur kind of customized stuff like camcorder and camera. You'll notice different icons here for those contacts. And then as we scroll down, you'll see live TV, My AT&T, Need for Speed Shift phone portal, a couple of Motorola things like that, and web top connector, and then you have your AT&T, YP Mobile, V-Lingo's pre-installed, and more. So you do get that full Moto Blur experience. It's not like the Droid X or the Droid 2, where it's kind of the toned-down Motorola applications platform. Now, on the Nexus S, it's almost a clean, in fact, it is a clean install of Android 2.3. No T-Mobile programs. You can see out of the box here, minus the stuff I've installed, absolutely nothing. I've installed Speed Test and Quadrant Standard for later in the video, but you look at this, completely stock installation, Google Earth with the exception of some Google programs, Google Earth, Google Latitude, Google Maps, they come out of the box. There are no T-Mobile applications, although you can go into the Android market and download those if you want to. You can download Visual Voicemail. Although Visual Voicemail, when I first got this demo, I actually just requested this from T-Mobile or from Google again. But the first time I tested it, the Visual Voicemail wasn't working. I don't know if it does now. But anyway, you can download My Device and Help, or My T-Mobile and My Device and Visual Voicemail, and still get those if that's something that you want. But at least out of the box, it is a completely clean installation. So, if it's somebody that's, first-time smartphone buyer, kind of migrating from a feature phone in, perhaps this is the easier one to get acquainted with. Although, to me, between these two, I'd say it's probably pretty equal, versus something like a Sense UI that HTC makes. That's a great transition over. These are pretty equal. Let's take a look at the keyboards on both of these devices and see what they can do. Let's go into text messaging and text messaging here. And you'll see, just little differences. For example, you'll notice that this text messaging interface looks different than this. Well, this is stock Android. This is how it's supposed to look, or at least look in stock form. And then you can see this is what it looks like with Moto Blur pre-installed. So we'll see text message, and you'll see it has the Motorola's multi-touch keyboard. We'll start with this one. Motorola's multi-touch keyboard, one of my favorite on the market, but it's one of my favorite when the display is large enough, like on the Droid X. 4.3-inch display, super large, very easy to type on, absolutely wonderful keyboard, and it moves very quickly. When you get down into these 4 and 3.7-inch displays, it gets a little harder to type on because the keys are very narrow. So you look at these keys, you see they're narrow, and also it lags in two places for me. One, when I'm trying to unlock the screen and I swipe to unlock, and two, when I'm typing on the keyboard. So you can see the Quick Brown Fox. Let's do Quick Brown Fox, jumped. Whoop, Quick Brown Fox jumped over the lazy dog. So you can see there, and then of course you can use that in landscape mode if you want to as well. So, you know, it's a pretty decent keyboard to type on, but like I said, there is a little bit of lag that comes as a result of, I guess, the smaller display. For whatever reason, the Atrix, like I said, lags in two places, the keyboard and then trying to slide to unlock. But that's what the keyboard looks like. It does come with swipe pre-installed as well. If that's your thing, you can click on swipe and you prefer to use it. That option is available as well. So let's swing over to the Nexus S. Now it comes with a stock Android keyboard, but you'll notice if you're using a device with 2.2 or 2.1 like the Epic 4G or something like that, you'll notice that this is a revised version of Google's keyboard. You'll notice the keys are a little bit fatter, a little bit shorter, and you know, it's a love-hate thing. It's funny, when this device first came out and I got the demo unit for the first time, I absolutely hated this keyboard, but I used the device as my personal device for a couple weeks, and I grew to love it. So it's one of those things, if you don't like it, give it a couple of days. The average, they say, is about a week to get used to something and decide whether you really like it or not. So we'll see. The quick brown fox is an awesome friend of mine. Whoops, that was my fault. Mine. So you can see there again, portrait and landscape mode as well. Transitions are relatively quick, and you can see these differences between Android 2.3 as opposed to 2.2. Different colors up here at the top, battery indicator, signal strength indicator are different, and then the color scheme on the notifications bar, very different as opposed to what stock Android, or what Android 2.2 looks like rather. So you can see a little bit, you know, some differences there. But anyway, I've been very pleased with this keyboard. Notice the orange colors as well, and you see that all throughout the device. The orange colors from when you're going through menus, that seems to be the new trend. You can see as I'm scrolling up and scrolling down, see that orange at the top and the bottom. That's the new color, and you see it in the keyboard as well. So now that we're off the topic of keyboards, let's actually take another look at, you know, the different operating systems between these devices. You know, first of all, this is running Moto Blur. It's running Motorola's custom user interface over Android 2.2. So you do have some differences on this and a device like the Nexus S, where it's running a stock version of Android 2.3. No manufacturer customizations, no carrier installed applications, you know, very clean version. But you'll notice, you know, for example, 2.2 and 2.3, there aren't that many differences, but you just look at stuff like on the bottom here, you know, which is very similar to the 2.2 dock, you can notice the differences there. So we'll take a look at some of the blur stuff, but first of all, let's do this. Let's take a look at the the widgets rather. Motorola widgets and Android widgets. Now you get Android widgets on the Nexus S as well. They're the typical Google widgets: analog clock, calendar, Google search, Google voice, latitude, market, news and weather, power control, etc., etc. And you have those on this device as well if you want to download those, except this has VLingo because it's pre-installed. But you can download those if you want to. I have to give Motorola credit. As much as I dislike Moto Blur, the widgets on Motorola's, or the widgets on Moto Blur rather, are fantastic. You look at the toggles up here, I just happen to like the way they look, and the biggest win for me, if you will, we'll go to date and time, for example, the ability to customize the widgets. So you see the widget here, instead of just a big bulky widget coming down, like picture frame, let's do that one for example. Actually, let's make one up here as an example. Calendar. Not a big widget, but you know, outside of that widget, I can't make it bigger, I can't make it smaller, it kind of just takes up space, I can move it around and that's about it. With Motorola's widgets, I can make space, I can move it around, I can make it different sizes, I can make it smaller, you know, I can go like that, I can make it, I think you can make it down like this. So I can do a couple of different things with it. So when you're on a screen that has a bunch of widgets on it like this one, you have some abilities to customize and throw in some more widgets than what you would be able to do with a device like this, or a device with Sense, or a device with Samsung's TouchWiz UI. So I do give them credit for that. So that's Blur. You know, outside of that, yeah, that gives you an idea of what Blur's like. Now you look at something like this, it's stock Android 2.3. Just basically, you know, standard widgets panel. But you do get 5 home screens you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That you can add stuff to. And you can go down here and click on the little dots and see the individual home screens lined up. So if you want to go all the way to the end, you can click that one. And then if you want to go all the way to the other end, if you want to go all the way to the other end, you click that one. So you get the idea. Whereas with this one, you can scroll, you know, over and over real quickly on this, or you can double tap, if I remember right. There we go. I'm sorry, single tap, and you can see it brings them all up so you can scroll over, you know, like that. So you do have options on both of these devices.